and Relations in the International Affairs and Communications Division at Yad Vashem. I'm also joined by Dr. Aaron Moore, member of the Advisory Board at the European Shoah Legacy Institute in Prague. Thank you both for joining us. But before we turn to studio, we want to go live, or we want to go directly there to Poland. Our India Naftali is at the march and filed this report.
Right now we are in Poland, here in Auschwitz, a former German Nazi concentration and extermination camp. And we are with March of the Living, which is an international annual educational Holocaust program that brings delegations from all across the world to have an on-site experience, but also to march in remembrance of the 6 million who were lost in the Holocaust. Now, today, like I said, there are thousands of people here from all around the world. We've seen Arab delegations, we've seen so many Jewish youth movements, and it's incredible to see how many people of so many ages are here and standing up against prejudice and hate and saying never again. We've seen delegations from Japan and Australia. There's an incredible sense of unity here today, marching for something that we all believe in, something that we all know we want to continue in the future, and that is saying never again, and that we remember the 6 million who were lost.
Yes, coming back to studio now with our guest, Rochelle Bod-Kaplan and Dr. Aaron Moore. Rochelle, I want to start with you. This annual March of the Living, 3 kilometers of walk from Auschwitz to Birkenau, and it is held on Israel's Remembrance Day, but this is obviously a large international event. Talk to us about the larger meaning of all these people coming together there today.
Well, I think that today is particularly significant in the fact that it's an event that brings now more and more non-Jews who are participating in this, I would say, gathering, which is a educational, I think, Congress, if you would like to think of it that way. It brings people together from so many different nations. It provides them, I think, with a very meaningful experience. And I would like to hope that for many years this will have a lot of impact on young leaders of tomorrow.
Yes, we're seeing some very important people there. U.S. Ambassador to Israel, former U.S. Ambassador, and this year also honored by the presence of the Italian President. Dr. Aaron Moore, talk to us about the meaning of this march for you as someone who deals with the Shoah all his life, basically, the importance of this walk and what it symbolizes for you.
I would like to add to my colleague's answer before. Basically, if you look at it from the Jewish point of view, it's the biggest gathering, annual gathering in the diaspora outside of Israel. In Israel, of course, we have bigger gatherings, but in the diaspora, there aren't such big gatherings of Jews. So this is a unique event which is ongoing every year, and it brings a very good feeling to the Jewish people who attend it and to the Jewish diaspora, knowing that there is such an annual event. So this is important as for itself, for the framework of Jewish and Jews. For me, this event is emotional. I did it myself without the march, on my own, and it is meaningful, and it is bringing me to new areas, because it's being held in Poland, and we know that in Poland now we have issues with Poland, and one of the major issues is the Jewish property that is held in Poland, which is not dealt with by the Israeli government, which is a big shame. So I have, on one hand, positive feelings. On the other hand, I have mixed feelings, and negative feelings about the dealing of the Israeli government with the issue of Jewish property left behind in Poland.
Yes, the relations between Israel and Poland are obviously a big issue, keeping in mind that obviously most of these death camps are there in Poland, and that March of the Living is taking place in Poland at a time when the relations between these two countries are complex. They've always been complex. They've been just as complex in recent years. Rochelle, how do you see the handling of the Israeli government with this government of Poland when it comes to the historic memory and the role that the Polish people played in the Holocaust?
Well, I want to focus on what you just said about death camps, and I think that that's a good starting point because that is a point of contention, and I think that the Polish government is correct to make sure that we understand that those camps were not built by the Polish people, and that they were they were created by the German government at the time, and it's very important to make sure that it's always clear when we talk about that and not to say Polish death camps. What is important is that Israel, as well as another 34 governments, including the government of Poland, are members of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance is committed to safeguarding the historical record. And that means that we all are signed on to protecting and combating Holocaust distortion. And that is very important as the IRA mission. And I believe that we need, as governments, to make very clear pledges to ensure education, remembrance, and research, to make sure that when we are working on Holocaust education, that we make sure that it is accurate and that it is meaningful.
Yes, you mentioned Holocaust distortion, and there was quite a debate just this week in Israel about where these delegations are being sent to. We will go much deeper into that later. We just have a minute until the break. I want to hear from you, Doctor, about what is most significant for you about the new changes, perhaps, that are being proposed for the delegations.
Well, I see in this agreement, which was hopefully will not be signed or not be approved by the Israeli government and the Knesset, a very big problem, because it makes symmetry between the suffering of Poles during World War II and the suffering of Jews during the Holocaust, and that ignores the murders of Jews by the Poles during the Holocaust, and basically it causes a long-term damage to the memory of the Holocaust, as the moral imperative of the Holocaust is lost. Now, Poland, the Polish nation, is a great nation, and it was proven a long history. And therefore, the attempt of the Polish government to create such an agreement is simply disgraceful.
We will dig deeper into all these very contentious topics. We are taking a very short break now. We'll come back to hear more from the March of the Living and from those speakers there.
Hey, it's you again. Ready? Let's go. One show, a whole lot of perspective.
He is part of the problem.
You want to talk about deplatforming?
People are losing their lives.
Not just what happened, but why does it matter?
I'd like to finish my point.
You're the one stretching terms here.
You could be a fantastic CNN reporter.
Join us every night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Global Live. The global conversation starts here.
Imagine being able to see into the future.
What innovations will change the world as we know it? Join us as we meet the people changing our planet and discover the inventions shaping tomorrow.
Israel Business Beat, Sundays and Wednesdays, 9:30 p.m. GMT.
The Middle East is changing. Old alliances make way for new partnerships.
Bigger threats lead to new relationships, and shared goals mean new opportunities.
We speak to those who know the inside story and are at the heart of the changes.
Don't get caught up with the same old story.
Find out what's happening in Middle East Now.
Middle East Now on I-24 News.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on this special edition covering the annual March of the Living. We do want to take you live right there, right now. We're joined by Rowan Osman, a Syrian-Lebanese peace activist visiting the March of the Living at the initiative of the Sharaka NGO. Rowan, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to speak to you on this day.
I hope we can hear you, Rowan. The memory of the Holocaust is not often honored in the region, in the Middle East. First, tell us, how did you come about to attend the march today, and talk to us about your feelings being there on this very special occasion?
Yeah, first of all, as you mentioned, I'm half Lebanese, half Syrian. I grew up learning that the Holocaust did not happen. Unfortunately, even in the curriculum at school, we learned that this is a fabrication. As I grew older and moved to Europe, I lived among Jews, and I ended up working for an American organization, the Center for Peace Communications, and we combat anti-normalization laws in Arab countries. Last year, with Sharaka, we organized the first Arab delegation to Auschwitz. Emiratis, Syrian, Lebanese, Bahrainis, Moroccans. This year, we're doing it again, as it was a success. Last year, a lot of people are thirsty to know more about this tragedy. They are shaken. Personally, I'm privileged because I got out of the box, and in Europe, my eyes opened to a bitter reality that is still unfortunately denied in the Arab world.
Yes, Rowan, as you mentioned, Holocaust denial, even pure anti-Semitism, of course, are common phenomena in the Middle East today, at least when it comes to the knowledge of history. But do you see a change in recent years? We've certainly seen some change in the Abraham Accord countries, in the UAE and some other places. We've seen Holocaust memorials in the UAE. Is this the start of a new era in this respect?
Absolutely. Thanks to the Abraham Accords, this is possible. Without it, this would have been inconceivable. 10 years ago, imagine Arabs praying, Muslims praying in Auschwitz in memory of those victims. So the Abraham Accords were a historic achievement, and more countries will join. The region is changing, but another event happened and will affect the future, and that would be the Syrian war. Today, we are at a crossroad. The people in the Middle East have two choices: either join the Abraham Accords and try to create a win-win situation for Arabs and Jews, or the other alternative, the dark possibility of, or the vision of the axis of resistance, the choice of Iran and its allies. We can see what's happening in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq. They're trying to destroy the region. And thanks to the internet, people know what they want, and they definitely choose peace for their children. It's our moral duty. And the youth do not want war. Definitely not.
it is certainly extremely moving and important to see you there as you pave the way for others, hopefully, in the knowledge and the importance of the Holocaust. Rowan Osman, a Syrian-Lebanese peace activist, we thank you so much for being with us. We will see the podium very soon where the Italian president is taking to the stage. Maybe let's try to listen to what he has to say. Okay, well, he is speaking in Italian, so we will go back into the studio. We're joined by Rochelle Bott-Kaplan and Dr. Aaron Moore. An incredible change in the fact that following the Abraham Accords, we have seen these ceremonies. This was unthinkable, like many other realities that have changed in the region until 2.5 years ago, before the signing of these accords. Talk to us about the importance of studies of knowledge of the Holocaust in general, just the mere existence of the Holocaust in Middle Eastern countries, and how do people here and abroad are able to contribute to those teachings?
So I'm proud to say that we've had 3 groups from Sharaka in Yad Vashem. The first few visits were only, I would say, for a few hours. Now we're building together with Sharaka actual seminars for groups, which give the participants a, I would say, fuller experience, both on our campus and in preparation. It's apparent to us that they are, as Rowan said, thirsty for knowledge. We believe that a lot of material needs to be put into Arabic. Yad Vashem has a Arabic portal, but we understand from our colleagues in the UAE that they would like to be able to have more books in print that they can give to visitors who come to see exhibitions on the Holocaust.
Dr. Moore?
Well, we can see here an interesting new event, the Emirates, and this adds basically to the importance of the March of the Living, because here we have an annual platform that enables people like the lady we just heard and others to join and express what they want to express about the Holocaust and whatever. So here is a joint interest and a joint possibility to do more on those issues.
I want to go back to Israel now, with your permission. President Herzog spoke yesterday. I want to read something that he said. He says that Nazi abomination was an unprecedented evil with no parallel by any metric. It was no mere malice. It was an infinity of horror. We must remember, repeat, and internalize time and again. They and they alone were Nazis. That and that alone was the Holocaust. How do you see some growing trend of comparisons, even within Israeli society today, to Nazis?
Well, Guy, I think that the president raised a very important point last night at Yad Vashem at the ceremony, because I think he was focusing on not comparisons but trivialization. And this is not new. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and also here in Israel. It's throughout, also on the street, also in the Knesset. We hear how the Holocaust is trivialized, often in a very inappropriate way. I think that this is why education is so important. And I'm very pleased that the president focused on this, because if everyone is what he's claiming to make the point. If everyone's a Nazi, then no one is a Nazi. And it's so important for us to understand the historical context and to be able to educate students of today to understand what this means and why it's so dangerous to use this in common parlance as a way to talk about everything and anybody.
Yes, we'll dig deeper into that with you, Doctor. We do want to go back to Israel now, as here in Israel, commemoration events are being held across the country. A state ceremony at Jerusalem's Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum has wrapped up with this year's theme, Jewish resistance. Survivors stood alongside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the President Isaac Herzog, and other top Israeli officials. Well, our senior correspondent, Rowan Osman, was there and filed this report.
As you can imagine, a moving day here at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. It was last night, Monday night, that in some sense the main event was held, that grandiose ceremony with lights and music and speeches. Today's events were simpler, more intimate, more mooded, but no less moving. The most prominent of which started at 10 o'clock local time with that siren that blared, bringing Israel to a standstill up and down the country. And here at Yad Vashem, opening the traditional ceremony for the laying of the wreaths, where one by one Israeli dignitaries, the president, the prime minister, others came and laid wreaths inside, this year inside, Yad Vashem's Hall of Remembrance, followed by representatives of survivors' organizations. But the wreath-laying ceremony was not the only one on this crowded day at Yad Vashem. Other ceremonies were held here over the course of the day that invited members of the general public to come, so no invitation needed. Any tourist, any Israeli can come, can read the name of a survivor inside the Hall of Remembrance, light a candle at the foot of the Warsaw Ghetto Fighters Memorial, and also a ceremony held at 1 o'clock local time that also was open to the general public, allowing them to share in the cause of Holocaust memory, with the day closing here at Yad Vashem with a memorial, with a ceremony held for youth movements, showing the importance of passing Holocaust memory on. We were also able to speak with a number of the survivors who came here on this momentous day to Yad Vashem.
The way I survived, I was in the partisans. It was after the Vilna ghetto was being liquidated. A group of us went through the sewer and into the forest. It's a long story, but I try to make it as short as possible and as clear as possible. Now, we went into the forest, myself, my mother and my sister, and as we were walking through the swamp, all of a sudden we were surrounded by people with a gun pointed at us, saying, "Halt!" They found out a little bit about us, and then they told us, "We cannot keep you here. This is not a family gathering. Only capable men and capable women are able to join it." And since we had nothing to lose, my mother said, "We're not going anyplace, or the Germans are going to kill us, or you can kill us." And we kept on following him. We followed them, and they saw they cannot get rid of us. I was given the job of putting dynamite underneath the tracks. I was doing it for a number of years, till one day we heard a noise coming from all directions, and we thought the Germans were coming. We were pleasantly surprised that those were the Russian soldiers.
So the ceremonies and the memories of the survivors. Rowan Osman, I-24 News, the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem.
It's a very moving testimony of that Holocaust survivor right there at Yad Vashem earlier today. brought to you by our Rowan Osman, and we're still here covering the annual March of the Living, 3-kilometer march through the camps. Dozens of dignitaries and VIPs, including Italian President Sergio Mattarella, Israeli Education Minister Yoav Kish, the Chief Ashkenazi Rabbi David Lau, United States Ambassador to Israel Tom Knights. Many other dignitaries are there to respect this event. We're taking a very short break now. We'll come back with live speeches from the March of the Living. Stay tuned.
Esta semana en News 24, emisión especial